As we said yesterday, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final round of the 2024 Formula One World Championship, now weighted very much in favour of McLaren-Mercedes. And for Ferrari, it went from bad to worse. Charles Leclerc already has that 10-place grid penalty. Now, his fastest lap in Q2 was deleted due to a track limits infringement coming out of turn one. It wasn't a massive drama. It was just two wheels over the white line, just over the white line. Pretty Charles Leclerc, but nonetheless, it was there. So he lost that lap. It would have put him P1 at the time, and he would easily have got into Q3, obviously. But now he's starting from the back of the grid because it's a 10-place grid penalty plus deletion, didn't get out of Q2. And for Ferrari now, a very, very steep uphill battle to take the Constructors' Championship to McLaren, because we have, as I say, the McLaren-Mercedes on the front row, Lando Norris ahead of Oscar Piastri again, and Ferrari on upheld by Carlos Sainz, who qualified P3. A little bit reversal of roles, as I've been saying in recent times. You would imagine that it would be the Ferrari driver that's being fired and this is his last race, who would be doing a few track limits things and maybe not getting through into Q3, but not. It's Carlos Sainz looking polished and professional and right on top of what he's doing to uphold Ferrari honour. And it's Charles Leclerc making a mistake like that in Q2. Yeah, not his fault, of course, that he has that 10-place grid penalty in addition to that, but it does mean that for McLaren-Mercedes, it's only things that can go wrong now that can rob them of this 2024 Constructors' World Championship. Great pole by Lando Norris over Oscar Piastri. Piastri's looked quick over the first 1.5 days through into FP3. Slightly more ragged always than Lando Norris. And today, comparing the two, it was Oscar very, very good in Sector 1, using all the road and a little bit more. One moment he got a track limit thing, but then it was reinstated. It was that close. Whereas Lando paced the lap probably a little bit better, as it turned out, in terms of how to use a new set of Pirelli soft tyres. He wasn't quite as quick in Sector 1, but then he had the grip in Sector 2 and certainly Sector 3, where there are more slow corners. And as ever in Formula One, it was the slower corners that actually put the pole lap together, and Lando sussed that out really well and managed the tyres incredibly well, I thought. So on the front row, you could say two extremes there. You got Lando doing that very, very well, very good on the slow corners. And you got Oscar out there putting the car on the limit, maybe overstretching the tyres a little bit. But that's good, to have both drivers pushing the car like that. The only thing I would say, as I've been saying for a long time, is that when you see McLaren's domination now and you think about the races they've won this year and how they've won them, you still think, wow, how did Lando manage to lose the Drivers' Championship in Vegas? And it comes back, of course, as I said, to the way they managed Lando from the Hungarian Grand Prix onwards. In a car that good, he should still be in the running for the Drivers' Championship going into this final day of the 2024 World Championship. But he isn't, and that's it. And all talk, of course, is of the Constructors' Championship. And as I say, McLaren can only lose it now. So Carlos P3, P4, Nico Hulkenberg, unbelievable in the Haas-Ferrari. What's he doing up there? Kevin Magnussen didn't get out of Q2, and there's Nico, just quick every time he went out. Good balance, good grip. I was doing a live stream not so long ago, and somebody said, why have Nico Hulkenberg's performances dropped off ever since they announced he was going to Sauber? Well, they haven't, and he's out there doing a brilliant job. And what a way to sign off with the team. Both drivers obviously leaving Haas at the end of the year. And well, at the end of this race, after this race. So yeah, wow, what a performance for him. Excellent. Max Verstappen was only 5th for Red Bull, did a very good job, like Lando, in the way Lando ran qualifying and certainly how he ran Q3 and put the lap together. Very good management as well from Max and Red Bull to not do 2 runs in Q2, to go out on a new set on the first run in Q2 and then just sit in the garage. A little bit of nail biting because it was close in Q2, but he sailed through, particularly with Charles Leclerc's time being deleted, and got into Q3. And that left Max with the only driver with 2 new sets going into Q3. So he gave himself every opportunity. And on his first set, he was quickest, everybody else on a used set. Then on the second set, he wasn't quite as quick on the overall lap. He was pretty good sectors 1 and 3, not bad. Obviously not going to be in Lando's class in terms of the way the car was going to manage the tyres in sector 3. But in sector 2 he caught Valtteri Bottas, who'd made it through to Q3. Get onto that in a second. And Valtteri wasn't going quickly. He was just sort of doing a perfunctory lap and caught him just at the braking zone going into the corner at the end of the straight, and just had to compromise his braking a little bit. So sector 2 he lost time with that, and that was that. So if we're going to have some sort of conclusion at the end of the year here going into the race, it is that McLaren have finished about where they've been most of the second half of the year, which is a definite grip and balance advantage over Red Bull. And Mercedes had another very average day. George Russell qualified only 7th. Lewis Hamilton, for traffic and other reasons, didn't get out of Q1. So in terms of the McLaren versus Red Bull status of where they are going into the winter now, McLaren definitely have the advantage in terms of understanding the car, the grip, the balance versus top speed, and obviously aero efficiency as well. So quite a lot of work obviously for Red Bull ahead. They've made progress, but that car of Max Verstappen still very, very edgy to drive. As we saw at the end of his lap in Q2, that first lap, the one and only quick lap he did in Q2, he'd basically used up all the tyres by the time he got to the last corner, and the rear just went like that, and he was on opposite lock on the runoff area on the curb. So it's not a track deletion corner, so it was no issue in that sense. But it was a big moment because he stayed on the power because he wanted the lap, obviously, and gave it a little bit too much correction, as you would when it's a bit rough on a runoff area like that. And the car snapped back the other way, and that was the beauty of that moment so far as watching Max at work is concerned, because he was very near the wall on the inside. The car snapped back to the inside and he just held it perfectly and just went straight over the start-finish line. But really big moment for Max there. I can see several Formula One drivers, lesser drivers than that, who would have overcorrected there and possibly hit the wall doing that. Really, really nice bit of driving by Max, given the way the car lost grip going into the last corner, or he went in a little bit too quickly or whatever it was. He talked a little bit about maybe I should have opened or closed the steering a little bit more. Quite sure what I know what he means. It probably means if I was turning in on the brakes, I should have done the opposite, and if I was turning in a little bit later, I should have gone in on the brakes. Whatever it wasn't right. Anyway, Max qualified 5th. He'll be disappointed with that. He gave it everything, and it's quite significant, I think, isn't it? As we again prepare for 2025 now, thinking ahead already for 2025, it's quite significant that this guy has now won 4 World Championships. Every reason to sort of relax a little bit, as we've often seen in the past with drivers who've clinched a World Championship before the season's end. But he's absolutely right on it, hungry as a dog. That's something that will definitely, all the other teams and drivers will be taking into the winter as well. So Max P5 ahead of Pierre Gasly, really good again in the Alpine-Renault. It's almost become expected now for Pierre to be in Q3 and to be going as well as he is. Let's hope he has a decent race. I mean, he faded very quickly in Qatar, and reliability is usually an issue at Alpine-Renault as well, isn't it? But let's hope it does well. In the other car, Jack Doohan, making his debut in Formula One, looked pretty good in FP3, and he wasn't far away from Pierre the first run in Q1, but he went out very, very late in Q1. And we should bring the Lewis Hamilton story into this as well. Went up very late, crossed the line like 5 seconds before the flag. Lewis crossed the line like 2 seconds before the flag. A lot of traffic. Lawson, Tsunoda, Magnussen, lots of guys there in front of them. And Jack did a 24.1, Lewis did a 23.9 in all that traffic. And in addition, Lewis caught some debris from Magnussen, who was off the curb trying to make way for him. And so Lewis didn't get out of Q1. Just so disappointing for him in his last Grand Prix for Mercedes to be starting back of the grid. I suppose the only consolation is that Charles Leclerc's down there as well. But it's not really a consolation, is it? But when you think of Lewis's career, and when you think about what he's done for Mercedes, with Mercedes, it's very sad that this happened in qualifying today. But there's a bit of an irony there, is there not? What is it with Abu Dhabi and Lewis Hamilton? Let's hope that he has a good race tomorrow, because at least, he's had a terrible qualifying session. There's half a chance things might go half reasonably for him tomorrow. So George Russell, P7 for Mercedes, in a difficult car. Similarly difficult, the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, P8. P9, Valtteri Bottas, superb performance in the Sauber. Sad that this is his last race. I've been saying for a while that I think Sauber could do a lot worse than to keep him, have maybe a young guy in the other car, but to keep him there for continuity. But no, they've got Nico Hulkenberg, and of course they've got Gabriel Bortoleto in the other car now. So this is the last Grand Prix, probably the last Grand Prix ever for Valtteri Bottas. And what a thing to qualify P9 in Q3 in a Sauber. Really, really good for him. Happy for him. And big smile on his face, as you would expect with Valtteri. Very balanced guy. And rhetorical questions on his helmet. What next? Yeah, well, let's hope he finds something good and we can still enjoy watching him drive, because he's done a very good job over the years in Formula One. And then finally, Sergio Perez, again, made it through to Q3. Wonder of wonders. In what is a difficult car. So that's quite a good little ending of the season for Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen 22.9, Sergio Perez 23.2, both in Q3. Not bad at all from Sergio's point of view. And on that note, here's the second part of the chat I had recently with Mario Isola, the Director of Motorsport for Pirelli. This is a slightly shorter section, but it's talking about the way Pirelli are going in 2025, what we can expect from the cars in 2025, and what we can expect in 2026. Big unanswered questions there for sure. So over to you, Mario.
So we have simulation coming from the teams that are telling us that there is a further step in this direction. Probably not as big as in the past, as last year, for example. We have a new construction with a better durability that we assessed in our indoor tests. We decided to review the compound range in order to have compounds that are better spaced in the range. At the moment, we have C1 and C2, the two hardest compounds that are a bit too close. Then there is a big step between the C2 and the C3. So we wanted to reposition the C2 more in the center between C1 and C3. And we wanted also to homologate a C6 that is a super soft compound, mainly for street circuits, because we have more and more street circuits in the calendar compared to the past. And sometimes we need more flexibility in the range with softer compounds available. At the moment, it works that we can homologate as many compounds as we want. So it's not a problem to homologate 6 compounds. But we cannot introduce new compounds during the season. So we prefer to homologate an additional compound now and maybe not use it if it's not necessary, rather than not homologating, and then we don't have the possibility to add anything.
And 2026, how's that looking at the moment?
Difficult. because we have data, we have simulations from the FIA and from the teams. We have an idea on the performance of the 2026 cars that is changing because some details on the regulation are still not defined. So the cars are, let's say, changing depending on the moment. The real issue is that we don't have a representative mule car because the modified cars to fit these new tires are the current cars or cars from previous 2-3 years. That means the aero package is the same we have now, not the new one. We don't have an active aerodynamic package. We don't have a car that is lighter. We don't have a car with a new power unit with more electric power compared to the past. So we can also only imagine what is going to happen and simulate it as we did, for example, a few years ago when we were developing the 18-inch tire. But when we run on track, the data collected with the mule cars are better than nothing, but not really representative.
But are you expecting the cornering loads to be even higher in 26?
Not higher, but not much lower as it was supposed to be at the beginning of the development. So straight line speeds higher. It was clear since the beginning, but cornering speeds, if they want to keep a level of performance that is not too far from the current cars, cannot be much lower than now.
Straight line speeds higher, that's an interesting one, I imagine, from your point of view. Is there anything you can do in terms of the shape of the tire?
We obviously work on what we call standing waves, that are these, say, the formation of the sidewall that you have in high speed, simulating the higher speeds, but we have indoor machines that are able to go up to 450 kph. So I believe that we have quite a good, still a good margin. If we talk about pure speed, it is also true that they achieve the speed with lower loads because of the active aero package. So they have a higher speed but lower vertical load. In cornering, they still have high speed and high load. So it's slightly different because the floor is different and the generation of downforce is different, but still quite high. It's not true that we can expect from the 2026 cars to have loads that are 30% lower than this year. I don't believe it.
Finally, Mario, your life, you still doing your great work behind the scenes with the fire department?
Still doing that.
Brilliant.
Now Christmas time is close, so I just got a message from my colleagues when I'm available for my shifts. I have to reply giving some availabilities. It's okay. I mean, I spend most of my year traveling the world for my job. It's good that I can give them a bit of support when I'm at home. So I'm planning to have some nice shifts during Christmas holidays.
Well, congratulations. A big thanks from the Formula One community to you for that. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Finally, a reminder that I got this special arrangement now with Amalgam and their Red Bull collection. The details are in the description below this video, but just a reminder of how exquisite these models are. I mean, they're almost impossible to resist. That's all I can say. So I'm doing all I can to try and ease the financial burden a little bit. So there's a special code there you can use to give you a little bit of an advantage. Anyway, that's it for Abu Dhabi Saturday. Big thanks to Jetcraft, to OEM Exclusive, and of course to Track Ninja, and to you, the viewer, for watching. Hope you're enjoying it all. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.